Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. We'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. We'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. Today is Tuesday. It is the 15th of December, halfway through the month. 10 days from Christmas. All is, I'd say all is well in the world, but we know that there's a lot of problems. But we're going to make everything better. We're going to make this a better world just by putting out good vibes into the world today. So no matter what goes on, we can counteract the badness with the goodness. Okay, so we have an Aquarius as a moon sign. So the moon, the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind at this point in time is dealing with Aquarius. Air sign. So the mind is moving, okay? Air moves. Sometimes air stays still, but mainly air moves. So the unconscious mind, something's going. There's movement taking place, activity taking place. We know from the card that it's all about balance. Okay, just like we have balance between the sun sign that we're dealing with right now, there's also balance. Both of them have one foot on land, one on water. Both are seeking to find balance. So that's a good thing. We've heard, I like to go back to the idea of the age of Aquarius. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. You heard that song, or maybe some of you, if you're really young, you haven't heard that song. But it was during the time when the 60s, when all the belief of this new age that was coming upon us would bring all of this goodness, this new revolution of ideas and thoughts and science and, religion and faith. And so this is what Aquarius is. It brings with it ideals. And when people hear Aquarius, it still is a throwback to those old beliefs and ideas that we could make everything better. Goodness is ahead of us. All we have to do is focus on it. And so that's the whole idea that I like to get from Aquarius. There's everybody who looks at this can pull different bit of information. This is how I do it. This is what I do. And I like to do the broad strokes to some extent. Some people with astrology are very intricate and very detailed. That's not me. I'm more of a broad stroke with the astrology, and I think that's really what's necessary. I like to look more into the energy behind it and, some of the other elements that we talk about. But anyway, let me continue on here. 15th, we had one aspect that we've dealt with so far. This was a square, and a square with Venus. So this morning, dealing with lesson we need to get by, our imagination, our creativity, how we're going to express that. Because remember, air is words in action. So the Aquarian words in action run up into a square when it reaches the imagination. How are we going to apply that? So that's the lesson to deal with today. 12:20 p.m. Aquarius is going to be in a sextile with Uranus, and Uranus brings unexpected changes, surprises. So sometime around the lunch hour, we'll be dealing with this opportunity with surprises to experience something different, perhaps. And then later in the evening, 5:24 p.m., Mars is going to be in a trine with the moon sign here, Aquarius, and Mars always throws in some energy into the mix. It energizes the situation, but with Mars, remember, it can be very creative or it can be warlike, depending on how the energy is utilized. In this case, there's a trine, which means there's a nice positive aspect and the flow between these two energies here and how they're going to interact. So that's a good thing. Moving on from there, okay, we have our grid or wheel if you want to check that out. The moon phase for today, 18.8% of the way there. It's a waxing moon, making our way to the full moon 10 days from now on Christmas Day. Jewish calendar, today is 3 Tevet. 3 Tevet is the name of today, and the daily thought is the supermind. Our brains can orbit around the truth forever, but they have no feet to land. There is a faculty, however, that doesn't need to travel to find truth, for which truth was never hidden or obscured, for it is a native of truth from birth. It is not blind faith, it is an inner vision. It is not mind, it is yet more essential to our very being. It is the foundation from which meaningful thought begins, and with it all things resolve, for it knows intimately that which the mind can only glimpse upon through the shifting clouds. Okay, that's a good one. It is not blind faith, it is an inner vision, not the mind, yet more essential to our very being. Very good, very good. Dreamspell Oracle, today's a 9-tone day, the wave spell of the star, so the theme of the star is shining bright, the light within us. Today is the warrior aspect of that. The warrior, question mark, asking questions, using our intelligence. See, being a warrior doesn't mean we go out and we fight with our physical body, with our muscles. Being a warrior means we use our intelligence, so we don't necessarily have to fight. Fighting should be the last resort when a situation occurs. We don't want to strike out in an offensive manner. We want to reserve all of that. We want to be able to use our intelligence to move us from situation to situation. That's why the warrior is so important. Yet we have that mixed up down here on Earth. We think that the warrior is just supposed to go in, like a bullheaded being and fight, fight, fight. Maybe that was the idea of the Minotaur, just someone who's being bullheaded, someone who is not using their brains to figure out how to do things. So anyway, warrior is all about intellect, intelligence. So today is the solar tone of intention and the kin of intelligence, asking questions. So today would be the intention of asking questions, using our intelligence, learning more, knowing more. The hidden power is our life force energy. Dreams, abundance of the night is our like-minded energy, and the challenge is the world bridger, the lesson of life and death, that bridge between the two of them. The phrase for today is I pulse in order to question, realizing fearlessness. I seal the output of intelligence with the solar tone of intention. I am guided by the power of free will. Space weather, solar wind 498.4 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index, quiet at a 2, could possibly get up to a 5, which would be a storm over the next 24 hours. Remember, the scale here only goes to 9, so if we get to a 5, we're past the halfway point. So it'd be a good-sized storm. Solar wind is going to affect us. We're told that by the 17th we should be feeling the effect of the coronal hole. Right there, M-class flare possibility is staying steady at 15%. X-class 5%. Geomagnetic storm activity is decreasing slightly, going from 40 to 35 in the mid latitudes, and the high latitudes from 60 down to 40. So there is a decrease in that. And just remember, the universe around us is breathing all the time. We are part of a living, breathing organism, and so that's what these are. The flares, the solar activity, the geomagnetic storms. It's the sun and the earth breathing and interacting together. Breathing and interacting. And last but not least here, the waxing crescent moon hangs in the southwest at nightfall. Look above it for two brightest stars of Aquarius, Beta, and higher Alpha, Aquarii. Alpha is the bottom right point of the water jar asterism. And there you have it. That is our cosmic weather today. So plan accordingly. We have Sagittarius for the conscious mind. The unconscious mind is Aquarius. So we have fire and air working together. So let's use the fire to stoke the air and vice versa, so that the words and actions that we speak come from the higher self, which is what this is really all about, finding the truths in the world around us. UFO News is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right. Thank you very much, Dirk. Okay, today, 4 stories. First story, secret government program used telepathy to contact aliens, argues investigative journalist Jim Mars. Military-trained psychic spies were able to view non-humans on Earth and elsewhere through remote viewing, argued Jim Mars at this year's Secret Space Program conference in Bastrop, Texas. Jim Mars is a former newspaper journalist who has written for the myriad of news outlets, including the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He's perhaps best known for his 1989 book Crossfire, The Plot That Killed Kennedy, which reached the New York Times paperback nonfiction bestseller list and later served as the basis for Oliver Stone's film JFK. SRI International developed a method of spying called remote viewing in the 70s, which caught the attention of the CIA and later passed on to the U.S. Army. Remote viewing is a form of telepathy that perceives places, persons, and actions through extrasensory perception. According to Mars, everyone has the ability to do remote viewing. It is not limited to time and place. You can use it to look into the past and future. However, the further you look into the future, the fuzzier it gets, which suggests that the future is not determined, explained Mars. A U.S. military program known as the Stargate sought to locate and map Soviet Union submarines using remote viewing. The process involved a group of individuals who attempted to visualize the coordinates on a world map, given the magnitude and the longitude of the submarines. The program apparently worked effectively for more than 20 years. Army intelligence officer Joe McMonigal is said to be the first man to have taught remote viewing during the Stargate project. The original group consisted of 6 remote viewers. During the course of the program, there was an interest in UFOs. One of the best remote viewers, according to Mars, went by the name of Pat Price. According to Price, he found 4 alien bases on Earth. They were located on Mount Perdido in Pyrenees, Mount Inyagani in Zimbabwe, Mount Zeal in Australia, and Mount Hayes in Alaska. The organization originally filed the report away. In 1998, Skip Atwater, executive officer of the Grill Flame Unit, was responsible for giving members of the group odd tasks. He recalled Price's 4 alien bases and gave them the coordinates for each. All the members came back and reported all of the bases were on Earth and run by aliens. Mars believes aliens have visited Earth many times throughout human history. Nevertheless, he believes the frequency of visits spiked with the rise of nuclear weapons. Okay, so we have more to that story. I'm leaving it to you. I'm going to move on to the next story here. Okay, here we have an object. And this is one we need to use our discerning eye here. We have an object here, as pointed out, the sun, and then this object here. What is this object? First we want to know, is this a lens reflection? Okay. Is this a reflection from this? I mean, this is the light spot that would be here. It doesn't appear to be so. I might be wrong. So I ask our resident experts who are watching this if you might be able to chime in on what you think. According to what this article shows, it's showing how, this is from Scott C. Warren, talking about how when the sun is a certain perspective that the cloaking around the UFO becomes visible. It says what we're seeing here is a very large UFO rising out of the ground. The UFO tries to leave while it's misty in the area so it won't be seen, but the sunrise and early morning, often called the second sun, the UFO is seen behind the trees on a distant hill. Sunrise and sunset can cause a cloak ship to become visible for 10 seconds to 10 minutes, depending on the angle and position of the spectators. Okay, so there's the object right there, close up. So close up, it doesn't look like it's any sort of reflection. It does look like an object of some sort on its own. Eyewitness says, I went out first thing this morning. After sitting outside for a few minutes, I looked to the west at the fog covering the hillside. Then there was a bright, almost blinding light that made my eyes tear up. Tears rolling down my face. The object did not move. It appeared to be in front of the heavy fog. It appeared to be above the hill and slightly in front of the hill. After snapping a few pictures, it appeared to dim. It had translucence to it. I looked down at my camera to make sure I'd gotten the shot, looked up, and it was gone. After having examined the picture I took, the picture effectively portrays exactly how the object looked to my eyes. The top is completely dome-shaped. The bottom is jagged as if there were trees in front of the object. Behind that hill there was a cluster of trees that could have caused this effect, but it would mean that the object was behind the trees, bright enough to cut through the heavy morning fog. In the picture, the sun is clearly visible to the left of the object. The light that the object emitted looked to be the same or similar to the sun. Okay, so there you have it. Once again, we have the sun, and we have this object. So check it out. Let me know what you think on this particular one, if this is real, if this looks like a lens flare. All right, moving on. If UFO believers have their way, Roswell becomes a huge issue in 2016. One day, nearly 20 years ago, Stephen Bassett realized UFO abductees needed a lobbyist. He spent 4 months working for the program for extraordinary experience research out of the modest new townhouse in Cambridge, Massachusetts, when he had the epiphany. He could continue his research with John Mack, the leading authority on alien abductions, for the rest of his life, but it would never make a difference. It occurred to me that it wasn't a scientific problem, but a political one, he said. They could pile evidence of extraterrestrial encounters from the White House lawn to the moon, and no one would pay it any mind. What the issue needed was someone who could get the powers that be to listen. The alien issue was really heating up in 1996. With what the summer blockbuster Independence Day, and Bassett worried that someone else could get the same idea, so he quit his volunteer gig, piled his belongings atop his beat-up Mazda RX-7, and drove off to Washington. I get down there, I file the lobbyist papers. He recalled, I'm the first one. 19 years later, I'm still the only one. I could have taken my time. Bassett, balding man with expressive eyes that seemed to go from blue to green, has long had one goal: get the government to admit that it has been covering up proof of alien visits. It has been a lonely battle, but he is convinced that the stars have finally aligned for his convoluted theory, which involves the Clintons, their longtime advisor John Podesta, and the now deceased billionaire. I want to see disclosure by the New Hampshire primary, he said, brushing crumbs off his black dress shirt and purple tie during lunch at the National Press Club this month, and I can make that case. It's going to happen. Bassett, born in 1946 to a military family that moved all over the country, he read science fiction, built model planes, enjoyed cheap bowling and milkshakes on the bases. His father rarely spoke to him and fought constantly with his mother. Bassett struggled with the obsessive-compulsive tendencies. He entered Georgia Tech just as the United States was going to war in Vietnam. While he was able to avoid the draft, the conflict darkened his worldview. There were too many secrets being kept. He felt his country seemed on a path to disaster. After college, he spent a couple of aimless decades freelancing as a tennis pro and business consultant, subsidized by an inheritance from his father. Then a book changed his life. It was called Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens, and unlike other literature on the subject, it was written by an acclaimed scholar, Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist with a Pulitzer Prize for biography under his belt. Mack, who died in 2004, began his research as a skeptic, interviewing dozens of subjects that at first assumed suffered from mental illness. Okay, you see there's more to the story and the influence that he had from John Mack. I'm going to leave the story here, but for those of you who've been listening to the show, you've heard Stephen Bassett on the show a number of times. I'm going to have him on again, catch up, because it's been a little while since he's been here, but He's one of the hardest working researchers, lobbyists, activists I've ever met. He works tirelessly and he is doing a great job out there. So if you have an opportunity to listen to any of his work, the big testimonies they did a couple of years ago in May at the National Press Club, and all of the witnesses about the UFOs experiences that came forth, the extraterrestrials craft are there. So check it out. Check out further work of Stephen Bassett. I'm going to contact him and get him on the show for an upcoming visit. And one last story here. This involves the moon landing. It says Stanley Kubrick directed NASA moon landing recordings. This is a deathbed confession, or so it says. And this one is making its way around the internet. The video was secretly released 16 years after his death. He requests on the video that if not to be released for at least 15 years. He died in 1999. The video looks real and may have been a deathbed confession since he was about 71 in this video. He died at 71. This may be submittable as evidence in court of law to force more of the truth to be released. I have to agree that I've gone over this first landing photos of the moon and they all appear fake. What I mean is that the moon module landed on sand. Yes, that's right. Lots of sand is perfectly smooth round. Almost no stones or other objects on the surface. However, I found that satellite photos of the moon all appear real. Just a walking on the moon mission appear fake. This is why the first original Apollo 11 film of walking on the moon was destroyed. It does not exist anywhere except copies. So in this interview here features a man claimed to be Kubrick telling his interviewer, I perpetuated a huge fraud in the American public, which I am now about to detail involving the United States government and NASA. That the moon landings were faked, that the moon landings all were faked, and that I was the person who filmed it. I'm serious, dead serious. Yes, it was faked. The alleged Kubrick goes on to declare, I consider them to be my masterpiece, and says that his work on 2001 A Space Odyssey was in line with popular theory, why I got the gig in the first place. The notion that Kubrick faked the moon landing comes into play heavily in 2013 documentary Room 237, in which one interview subject suggests that Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining, is the director's cryptic confession on the matter. Another theory suggests that Kubrick knew the true workings of the secret society of the Illuminati, and the cinematic masked orgy sequence of Eyes Wide Shut was intended to reveal their inner workings. So there you have it. Check out this interview. See what you think. If this is really Stanley Kubrick, if this is him saying what many have surmised for some time, that the moon landings were faked and that he was the one who had filmed it. So check it out. I'm going to jump away to a song. I'll be back. I say today's a good day for the wake up song. Here we go. Wake up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
All right, let's continue on. So this week, the story I'm talking about is the flat earth theory, the flat earth or the enclosed earth theory. I did an interview with Mark Sargent, who produced the series Flat Earth Clues. This is the interview that I've done with him. One of the things that I've noticed is been a really good job of propaganda in the world and debunking of ideas. And the debunking of ideas hasn't come by actually proving that the debunker is right. The debunker has just done a really good job of making others afraid to look at a subject. So, as one will find out, if one was to go into a court of law and present the evidence, there is actually, you may not know this, but there is actually more evidence to suggest that the earth is flat than there is evidence to suggest and prove that it is a sphere, a ball, like we are told. More evidence that it's flat. So, why don't we look at the subject then? Because someone has done a really good job of showing that it is ridiculous to look at for a variety of reasons, and people are so afraid of looking ridiculous that they will stay away from the subject. Well, that's the easiest way to keep someone away. Ridicule them for looking at something and then they don't look at it. So a lot of times, if you just mention flat earth, people, like Pavlov's dog, will respond to you, that's crazy. You're crazy for looking at that subject. Why? What proof is there that one is crazy to look at it? What's crazy is to allow someone's opinion and someone's propaganda to stop one from looking at a subject. Because the moment we do that, then we're really in trouble. So thank goodness to Mark and all of the other truth seekers that are out there working to bring this subject to light. There are many others. Eric Dubay, Matt Boylan. There's many, many who are now looking at this subject, not just now, but for a long time. So there's something to this. There's something to this. And when there's an effort made on such a large scale to keep people from looking at a subject, you have to answer why. Why has NASA gone to such great lengths to show us a space program that we find out behind the scenes really isn't what they say it is? Why has there been such an effort to say the Earth is the shape of a ball when we can prove, and there's provable information, evidence, research that shows that that is not the case? Someone has a vested interest in this. We'll find out a little bit more as we go along. I'm going to continue on with this interview because I thought this was, one of the best interviews that I've done, and the information with Mark and what he presented, that is what made the interview such a good interview from my perspective. Just to catch you up, there were two. Mark has a series of these videos, Flat Earth Clues, and each one he talks about a different bit of information. So what we talked about so far was the first one, which was called Empty Theater, and the second one, which was called The Bird Wall. The Empty Theater simply was talking about the lack of movies that exist about things like the moon. The reason why is because if a movie was made about the moon, we would find out that the quality is better than the quality that was filmed when we did the moon landings. And therefore, people might question that. So there was one clue. Now what we're looking at is clues here, okay? Each one of these is a clue. The second clue in things was Admiral Byrd, who made several trips to Antarctica, to the South Pole, to find out what's going on there. And Admiral Byrd, along with many others, 7 other countries, were there, and they were exploring, and they thought that they had resources that were going to take care of the world for many, many years into the future. Admiral Byrd was on a television show. He even said that it was the most important place in the world for science. And then, for no reason, all of the countries left. Just picked up and left. And then they made a treaty so nobody can go back into that part of Antarctica. Yes, you can go on boat trips, you can see the outer part, but you can't go into the inner part because the military-industrial complex has that sealed off. So there's something going on there. Why were they there and all of a sudden left? One of the speculations is they found the edge. So I'm going to continue on here because he's going to get into part 3 of his series. And Rather than me explaining it, this will do all the explaining on its own. Here we go. Okay, so the next part of the video series was map makers, and this is where it starts to address a bit more of what the Earth looks like and ideas that what some of the ancients believed in the maps and how the world looked as opposed to what we looked at it right now.
Yes. So when I was initially going down this road, map makers I had actually discovered before the bird wall, but I wanted to give it its own section, which was I had to find what the consensus was as far as how the world looked from an enclosed point of view. So I was looking for a flat map. And so yeah, I found the flat earth map, and it was kind of interesting because it had all the continents clumped in the center, and then big ring of oceans, the southern hemisphere oceans, and then the entire thing was surrounded by a giant ring of frozen continent, which we know as Antarctica. I thought that was pretty interesting. But I was looking everywhere for the maps, and I got into the wiki projections list of map projections, which shows just about every map that's ever been proposed on the world. Not necessarily in chronological order, but there's some interesting stuff there, including the Mercator map that's used in schools. That's that is by the blackboard versus the Gall Peters map, which is the one they're trying to get into schools, and they can't even get that into schools because they're saying no, it's too much of a shock to people, and we've been teaching this other map for so long. But anyway, I get down to the circular maps, and I run into something called the azimuthal equidistant map.
Okay.
And that's a circular map, and it looked eerily similar to the flat Earth map. Continents grouped in the center, surrounded by the ocean, surrounded by that giant ring that was called Antarctica. So I started comparing the two maps, and they were absolutely identical. But one of them was linked as a map that was used by the United States Geological Survey as the the current map of the world, and the flat Earth map was linked to nothing. That was linked to Crazy Town, and people that believed in that were obviously tinfoil hat people. So what was weird was the azimuthal map again, the identical map was also used by the UN flag, which was very interesting because why would the UN flag have from their standpoint there was one thing missing because the UN flag doesn't have Antarctica on their map, and the azimuthal equidistant does. So why didn't the UN flag put the ring of Antarctica around the edge of the map? They left it out deliberately. Not only that, but they replaced it apparently with a series of large spiky wreaths around the outside, and I think that was one of your the in your face moments. They were like, oh yeah, by the way, we know now. Who knows at that level? We'll know. But what was also interesting about those, both the UN flag and the azimuthal map, was they were very, very old maps, meaning they were proposed, and you can see the link. It's like proposed 1000 AD, and you're going, oh, it's got to be a typo. And then you see who was proposed by, which was a Persian scientist named al-Biruni. His full name, I'm not going to get into it because it's really hard and I might choke. And it was proposed, and he lived about 1,000 years ago, and he was a Persian scientist, very disciplined in lots of different things. And that's the map they're using. So why is the United States government using a Persian scientist's 1,000-year-old map back when we knew the world was flat? Why are they still using this? Did they leave it on Wiki accidentally? Did somebody just happen to slip that in there? I don't even know if it was one of those in-your-face things, but it was very, very intriguing to me. So I had to make a note of it because it's the only map out of all those projections that's linked to anybody. You think, oh, this map's linked to, like Spain or, different countries, different organizations. No, everything's blank, 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 blank. United States government, United Nations, blank, 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 blank. So.
And the ancients, for the most part, believed that the Earth was flat. There's many references in the Book of Genesis. Yeah. Throughout the Bible, we have the Egyptians at one point, the Greeks, the Mayans. If we read Zechariah Sitchin's book, he's talking about the Earth was a flat disk with a dome over it. So it's not a common theory.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not a new theory. It's the way it was looked at until it was changed.
Yeah, for 4,500 years, the majority of our civilization, that's what we thought the Earth looked like. It was flat when it was enclosed in some sort of dome-like structure. What it's made out of, who knows? But it was definitely enclosed. No one's getting out. And it only changed starting around the 1500s. So it was, and then so yeah, this image that you're looking at has not been around that long, and was literally could not be proven until the 1950s, when of course we'll get into it later, which is if you found out it didn't look like this after you've been handing out these things for 20 generations,
Hmm.
do you tell people?
Right. Good question. All right. The next in this series is Part 4, Shell Beach. What is Shell Beach? The gist of that.
Shell Beach kind of delved into things that we've done from a Hollywood standpoint to what we've done to simulate enclosed worlds, because a lot of people don't understand that there's quite a few enclosed worlds that we've actually covered in cinema. And because people relate to that, they latch on to these things. So I brought on, the first thing I talked about was Dark City, which there's a reference to Shell Beach in Dark City, and that is Dark City was an enclosed system that was built, but it was very small. So it was built only the size of a city, and the city actually went out to the outer edges. So it was this circular city that was enclosed, and the people didn't know they lived inside it because all the roads didn't reach the edge. And so people would drive around in circles, and they also altered their memories on a regular basis so they wouldn't catch on to anything. But every once in a while someone would wake up and they'd figure it out. But Shell Beach was something that was supposedly outside the city, but it was only a memory. Shell Beach didn't exist in real life, but nobody knew that. So the joke was in the movie, it's like, how do you get to Shell Beach? And no matter what train you took, no matter what road you took, you could never quite get there. And so you'd ask people in the movie, it's like, so yeah, you've been to Shell Beach, right? It's like, yeah. Do you remember how to get there? And they go, wait, how do we? They wouldn't remember. It was a fragmented thing. But that's how I started people. And then I went into the movie, which just about anybody that wants to really get hold of this model really should look at it, and that's The Truman Show, which was done, I think, in the mid-90s. And it was, The Truman Show, for those of you who haven't missed it, really, it's, one of Jim Carrey's best work, but it's also a fantastic example of what an enclosed system can do. Because the system was designed, it was, less than 20 miles wide, and it was a single city where you raise a kid from birth into the system. Everybody else is actors and extras. And you raise a kid from birth inside the enclosed world, well, he's not going to know he's in the enclosed world. Everybody else knows he's there, but nobody, he doesn't know, because why would he? When we're young, and that was the whole point of what what that video was about, was if you're born into the system when we're young, we believe that people are going to tell us the truth, our parents, our government, anybody. Why would people lie to us? But the illusion is so easy to project on kids, which is again why this globe was such a great idea. The globe model, it's like, look, you put this into a first grade classroom, they stare at it for 12 years. You don't even have to point at it. People will just go, they just stare at, they feel it. It's like, oh yeah, they totally understand. By the time they're out, you say, oh yeah, where do you live? Oh, I live here. Why would you ever question that? So the Truman Show dug into the aspect of what you could do with the Truman Show model if you made it bigger. And as you made it bigger, I found that once you get at least one generation of people in there, let's say the first generation were actors, once those actors have children, if the children don't know, if they don't tell them, then when the parents die, that link, that knowledge is gone. And at that point, the children and their children and every generation after that don't know where they live. Exactly. They think they know where they live, but they don't actually know. And so when I was building on that, I realized that as you scaled the system up to hundreds of miles and then thousands of miles, the actors can be removed entirely, and the maintenance becomes so much easier because everything else happens naturally in the inside. All you have to do is protect the perimeter. You build in systems to where they think they're turning around on their own, but actually they're turning around because you put the system in place. Like, it gets too cold out towards the edge, oh, I'm going to turn back. There's icebergs, I'm going to turn back. It's getting hard to breathe, I'm climbing down the mountain at this point, or my balloon's going up too high. And people, and I touched on that in The Village by M. Night Shyamalan as well, which didn't even need a dome. That's what made that movie so brilliant. It's like, look, if you buy a piece of land in a wildlife preserve and raise kids there, they're going to believe anything you tell them. So you could, if you want them to make believe they're in the Old West, that's exactly what they're going to believe. Why would they believe anything different? And the same thing applies here. We believe this because we're born into it. and our families beforehand. There's no, there's so much history has gone by now that no one would ever question it. 20 generations it doesn't sound like a long time. It is a long time.
Enough to condition a lot of people to believe something.
Yes, exactly.
And you got belief and fact, and those two things often run into each other.
Agreed.
And we got the something's in the collective consciousness, because there's other movies that seem to have the same theme. There's most recently we got The Signal.
Yep.
We got Under the Dome.
Yep, Under the Dome. The Simpsons movie, where they put the dome over the entire city. And again, don't think these things are happening by accident. It's I don't like to necessarily throw out the word predictive programming too loosely because it's overused, I think, in the conspiracy world. But for me, you have to, because this is so big, you can't hide it forever because we all live here. It's like hiding something in your own apartment from somebody else. Sooner or later, they're going to run into it. You can't bury it forever. So contingency plans are already in place. And the more stuff you show with domed or enclosed systems, the less shock it will be if something comes about. It's so people don't, so people can get their head around it. It's like, oh, we're in the Truman Show.
Right.
They won't freak out nearly as they'll still freak out, but they won't freak out as much.
They have a bit of it's easier to grasp.
Exactly.
So part 5 is called Status Quo, and this begins to get into the who was involved with this picture, and now we start talking about the major religions, and this is where we kind of backtrack to realize that all of the major religions at one point all had a flat Earth model.
Yes.
And then suddenly things changed when science met religion.
Exactly. The big 5 major religions, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity, they all pretty much shared the same, they may have, gone to war and fought each other, but, at the basic level, they still believed pretty much what the world looked like. And that was, a flattish system with an enclosure that, people can't get out of. And for me, when I got into status quo, I was looking at what each of the religions wanted and why you would want to hide it from them. Because, when it comes to the authority, and by that I mean governments, the super rich, and royalty, they've got a vested interest in keeping the world at a certain pace and a certain type of technology. Mm-hmm. And so what happens here is this. So imagine all those religions, and every one of them's looking for a supernatural object. They're looking for an artifact that can solidify their religions. Every religion wants something that'll put them on top. Whether it be the Holy Grail, whether it be the Ark of the Covenant. I can't remember what the Buddhism and Hinduism ones are, but they're pretty good. But everyone's looking for it. And if they can find it, they will hold on to it, and that will be, their new point of focus. So imagine if you were out on Antarctica and you found, the firmament, something in it. Fine, if they want to call it a wall or a barrier, even if it was a force field, it doesn't matter, because all the religions would say the same thing. This is obviously the enclosure, therefore it is part of our religion, and we have a vested interest in it. So imagine if all the religions at the same time in the world got the same artifact at the same time. There would be a huge shift in how people thought. And from a scientific standpoint, because remember, the exploration teams, they're science-based. Remember what Bird said? He goes, it's a great thing for science, Antarctica. So you've got all these scientists down there in Antarctica, and military and government and the rich people that are backing them. And all of a sudden, you find this thing. Well, it's a tough call, because you're going to be firing a lot of your people if this happens. You're going to be disbanding a lot of the people that are on there in the ice with you. So it's this weird self-preservation thing. It's like, okay, all these scientists, they won't have jobs anymore. All these guys over here, they won't, have jobs anymore. And so the decision was made at that point to hide it, because they knew if they didn't, there would be a potential backlash. And I'm going to use the Archer reference. They were afraid of a revenge rampage from religion, because religion has been slapped around for a long time on this. Science has had their way, but if religion all of a sudden came back and said, oh, by the way, the firmament, we got dibs on that. We had this long before you came up with the word force field. Then, then science, they're going to be backpedaling, and they didn't want to do it. So.
Right. And just as a point of reference, because you mentioned the word firmament, firmament is what is described as this dome that is over us.
Yes.
And The book of Genesis talks about the firmament that separates the waters from above as from the waters from below.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about that, we're talking about some sort of closure that is a dome-like structure.
Yeah, Genesis 1, by the way. And it's not even like, it's not like one of those later books in the Bible. This isn't New Testament. This isn't back, the back part of the Old Testament. This is the first book, that talks about this. So it's, for them, religion, they haven't forgotten this. Not by a long shot. And they will absolutely break that verse out, and they will put it on billboards everywhere if this comes out.
Right. Very good. So part 6. Okay. So there you go. That's all the way through part 5. One thing just to throw out there. I'm an intelligent person. I know that this subject is one of those subjects that's taboo. I know that by studying this subject and even suggesting to others that I'm studying this, I open myself up for ridicule. I can guarantee you I have no interest in my life in wanting to open myself up to any more ridicule than necessary. So I know going in, just discussing this, there are those who are going to think I'm an idiot and so on. But nonetheless, the amount that I care is this amount, 0. I don't care what people think about this. I'm not studying the subject because I'm looking to, for any particular reason other than to find the truth. That's it. So I'm not going to let words, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I'm not going to let words and ridicule keep me from looking at the truth. That is what is wanted out there. And there's too many incidents that have occurred on this earth that have happened because we've been fooled. Yet we're reminded over and over again through the stories of Jesus that we should not be deceived. Be careful not to be deceived. There are many other prophets and teachers who have told us, don't be deceived. So how many times do we need to hear somebody telling us, don't be deceived, before we actually take action to not be deceived? And that's what I believe I'm doing. I don't like the word conspiracy theory because it really has a bad connotation. I like the idea of truth analyst, looking for the truth in things, analyzing the truth. And that's what we're doing. We're analyzing the truths out there in the world because there have been a lot of lies. We know it. They happen all the time. The agencies that we're supposed to trust are lying to us. So if they're lying to us in one instance, what else are they lying to us about? We know NASA isn't always honest. So are we really going to trust them, especially when they're a major source of what this planet looks like? It's kind of a no-brainer. You get lied to by somebody, you learn that they're not very honest, and you have to take their information with a grain of salt. All right, let's move on from there. Tomorrow we'll continue on with the Flat Earth. Any questions? firstcontactradio@yahoo.com. Any comments? Feel free to say what you're going to say, and if you feel like you want to say I'm an idiot, hey, it's a free world. First Amendment rights, I don't care. All right, moving on. 5 foods that work as well as over-the-counter drugs. We all know that natural foods like vegetables, fruits, and healthy fats contain beneficial nutrients that build up the body's systems and work to promote overall health. But did you know that some foods also have specific health benefits? Research suggests that for many of life's minor aches and pains, food medicine can just be as beneficial as over-the-counter medication. And with the FDA recently stating that many NSAID medications are more likely to cause a heart attack and strokes than previously thought, now seems like the perfect time to examine possible food replacements for over-the-counter medications. Take honey for a cough. Honey has powerful antibacterial properties. It can be used as topical applications for speeding along the healing of wounds. But a 2007 study published in the Archives in Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine found another amazing use for honey. Parents were asked to give honey and cough medicine or nothing to their children when they had a cough. After the study period was up, parents were asked to rate the effectiveness of the treatment. Parents reported that most symptoms improvement in the honey group. Honey was able to control the severity of the cough and help children sleep better through the night. So it says we want to have raw, unfiltered honey. The next one is ginger. Try ginger to relieve menstrual cramps. The anti-inflammatory and anti-nausea effects of ginger are well documented. Now a review of 7 clinical trials published in Pain Medicine in 2015 has found yet another medicinal application for ginger. The review examined 7 different studies on the effects of ginger for menstrual cramps. According to one study, ginger probably works as well as ibuprofen for menstrual cramps. The review found that when women ate between 750 to 2,000 milligrams of ginger powder daily for the first 4 days of their period, their cramps were significantly reduced. Turmeric for arthritis. The yellow spice commonly used in curry dishes is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Numerous studies have found the benefits of adding turmeric to your diet on a regular basis. The magic lies in the phytochemical curcumin, which acts as an anti-inflammatory and an antioxidant in the body. When using turmeric to fight inflammation and arthritis, the University of Maryland recommends adults consume 4 to 600 milligrams curcumin exact daily to achieve the maximum health benefits. Cayenne. Hot peppers and spicy foods help you live longer, according to a 2015 study in the British Medical Journal. According to some health experts, it's the active component capsaicin that results in the pain reduction. Cayenne added to topical gels and creams and rubbed into painful areas can help manage and reduce pain. Consuming spicy foods on a regular basis may also increase your pain tolerance. Regulate blood sugar with bitter melon. Bitter melon is an Asian vegetable that looks similar to a cucumber. Some studies suggest that eating bitter melon can help regulate blood sugar levels in individuals with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. In 2011, a study in the Journal of Pharmacology, participants given large doses of bitter melon were able to reduce their blood glucose by a significant amount, slightly less than the group who were given medications. Have you ever considered treating your minor ills with food? Next time you're feeling a bit under the weather, try one of the food remedies before reaching for that pill bottle. All right, it's a very good article. I thought that it would provide some benefit. You know, I find that personally, I've benefited from a number of these different food remedies. I use more honey. I use ginger. You know, I like to have a ginger root in the morning. It's really good. Pick me up, get you going. You know, curcumin, turmeric. You know, I find these all beneficial, and I think you should check them out as well if you already haven't. All right, here's message for today. This comes to us from Archangel Michael. It's called The Power of
Love. Archangel Michael, December 13th, 2015. Channeled by Daniel Scranton. Welcome. We are here to serve and assist you. Before you begin changing anything, take a look at it and offer your love and your appreciation for it. There is more to be gained from loving what is than there ever will be in changing what is into something else. What you are living and who you are as individuals will always be changing into something more, but you often seek to accelerate the process. You look at what is, know that there is something more, and seek to use your powers as creator beings to change what is more rapidly. There is nothing wrong with this, with exerting your abilities, your powers. But the power of unconditional love is stronger than the power to create a reality that elicits more love from you. So demonstrate to yourselves how powerful you are, not in your ability to create something else, something better, but in your ability to create yourselves as those who offer unconditional love. Always begin with yourselves. Always seek to find the love within every situation and within every aspect of who you are. You cannot lose and you cannot fail when you make that your number one priority, when you seek love above change, above better, and above more. We are Michael. We are infinite. We are love.
All right, very good message. Of course, love is so very important. And the more that we are able to bring love into our life, the better. All right, here's our message from the Warrior of the Light for today, page 139. A warrior knows that the ends do not justify the means. Because there are no ends, there are only means. Life carries him from unknown to unknown. Each moment is filled with this thrilling mystery. The warrior does not know where he came from, nor where he is going. But he is not here by chance, and he is overjoyed by surprise and excited by landscapes that he has never seen before. He often feels afraid, but that is normal in a warrior. If he thinks only of the goal, he will not be able to pay attention to the signs along the way. If he concentrates only on one question, he will miss various answers that are there beside him. That is why the warrior submits. So, let's go to our meditation for today. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. Another deep breath. And exhale. Now I want you to imagine that you are looking out at the world. And you see the world from the perspective that is shown on a daily basis. The perspective that is shown from the news, from the politicians, from the agencies that are weaving the image and the story of what is taking place on the earth. And you look at this, and you step back a little further so you could get a good perspective. And as you look at it, you realize something seems off. You notice a glitch in the matrix. And so you reach down to a pool of water that is there in front of you. And you take this water and you splash it over your face and over your eyes. And as you do, your focus changes. And you begin to see through this illusion. And you realize, as this illusion fades, that there is a reality that is existing beyond what is being told. You realize that the politicians and the news agencies and figures of authority are not being honest and have created a story rather than understanding the current story that is taking place. And so we go through the world with open eyes and just walk through the world looking around at things as if we are seeing them for the first time. Seeing them free of the propaganda, free of the lies, free of the deceit. And as we see the world with fresh eyes, we understand that there is much for us to know, much for us to remember. So we imagine ourselves now taking a bucket of this water that we use to open our eyes and walking through the world and just reaching in and splashing this water on others so their eyes may also be opened. And one by one, we see people opening their eyes and seeing the world for what it is, as opposed to what story we are being told. And one by one, as everyone opens their eyes and sees the world for what it is, we find that people make better decisions based on the new information. So let's imagine ourselves just going to the world, sending out and sharing this water of life, this eye-opening water, to everyone we meet, that their eyes may be cleansed. Heavenly Mother, Father, Great Spirit of life, thank you for the blessings of truth. Thank you for the opportunity to see through the lies and the deceit, that we may truly understand your kingdom and the glory of your entire world. We pray this day that the matrix of illusion be dissolved, that all upon the earth may see truly what is really going on. We pray also that all of those who are holding this lie in place, the deceivers, manipulators, and liars, that they have the moment where they realize the error of their ways, and that they make a drastic change in who they are and the information that they now share. So let us continue to go to the world, helping to dissolve the matrix by sending out these eye-opening waves of energy. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. Thank you very much for participating as always. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for your comments. Just thanks for being here. I appreciate it very, very much. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to continue on with the Flat Earth. Investigate some of the things we've talked about so far. You got plenty of information. You can go look at the moon landing information. You could go look at Admiral Byrd. Go look at the maps, the various maps that we have of the Earth throughout history. Go look at the map that this Al-Biruni, this Persian scientist, has put forward. It's the Flat Earth map, and it's being used by the United Nations. Look at these things. Look up the religions and what they said about it. I'm going to provide links to these different bits of information throughout the course of this week, so don't worry, there'll be more. And if you have information, you probably have some that I don't have, send it across to me. Let me know as well. All right? That's it, because we're all in this together. At least I think that's the whole idea, that we all work together and not separately. I'll be back tomorrow. I love you. Keep loving each other. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.